Now here's a quick question. Will anyone be distracted if the door is open or closed?
Open.
Open?
Yep.
All right, cool. The one person. That's it. All right. For those of you who don't know, if you're missing, if you want to do the second live presentation, that's not here. That's downstairs. Obviously, this is going to be about podcasting your passion. How to stay creatively motivated. Because that's one thing that, in order, if you're a podcaster, how many here have a podcast? Just raise your hand. Awesome. There's a few. How many of you have yet to even start a podcast? Cool. Mike? All right. Well, for those, this actually kind of works for both those who have podcasts and those who are kind of wanting to start one. Because a lot of the things that makes people want to start a podcast is because they kind of have that creative drive to, just to create something. And they want, whether it be video or audio or whatever, technically you're a creator when you're creating a podcast. And you could basically podcast about whatever. The way I see it, I technically am a geek. Okay, I love anything from comic books, movies, to TV shows, whatever. I like it all, except anime. I don't really get that. But as far as being a geek, technically everyone in this room, I'm going to tell you right now, you're a geek. I'm not meaning that in a derogatory way. I'm not meaning that in a bad way, because think about the one thing that you're an expert in. That the one thing that you know a lot about. It could be anything. It could be cars. It could be gardening. It could be whatever. It could be about being a geek. Technically, you're an expert in that field. And that makes you a geek. So that makes you a car geek or a gardening geek. So everyone in here is a geek. So we can kind of level the playing field that way. Now, when you're creating a podcast, you can technically create a podcast about anything. You can create whatever you're an expert in. I suggest create a podcast about it. I mean, there's totally different kinds of genres as far as podcasting is concerned. So you can definitely fit a need. Let's just say if you're into cars, there is an audience for that. And now, that's basically how to kind of start your own podcast. But the one thing that seems to always happen whenever you create a podcast is you get really excited, you get your first episode up, and people are downloading it. It's great and all. And then later on, you just kind of, get apathetic. You don't really want to podcast anymore. It's like, I'll put it off till tomorrow. Or I'll put it off until next week. Next month I'll decide to do it. Then basically several months go by, and you just don't have the energy or the creativity to be able to just do another episode. You kind of fade out. Now this could also be considered pod fading, but I'm going to teach you how to be able to not necessarily pod fade. It just kind of gets you to kind of get that creative bump to be able to get yourself up and going, and so you can kind of get yourself podcasting again. So. Basically, a little bit about me. I took these pictures. I had a funny keynote, by the way. So, all right, a little bit about me. I'm a techie. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background. I've been podcasting for about 3 years. I'm a techie. I've been working with a lot of people in the tech TV industry. I worked as an intern at G4 Tech TV at Call for Help with Leo Laporte and Amber MacArthur. So I've been working with them. So I know a lot of people in the podcasting and tech industry. I also am a wannabe writer, because I also do have a podcast novel called Black Shadow. SteveSaylor.net, by the way. Black Shadow is kind of a superhero type book if you want to hear an audiobook, but kind of more into a episodic format. Definitely go check that out. There's at poddybooks.com. There's a great site to go check out more of those podcast novels. Also, I am a geek, like I said. And I'm also in my natural habitat, the internet or Starbucks, depending on what I feel like. But above all else, of anything about me, I am a creator. Okay? I love to create, whether it be audio, whether it be video, whether it be art, whether it's like anything in general. I just love to create stuff. And I'm not the creator, because I think God has me on that one. He's believing that sort of thing. But I am a creator, and that's what I love to do. I love basically working on projects that challenge me, or just something new, something cool that I'm interested in at the time. That's why I decided to do a podcast now. That's why I started to do a podcast, because it was something new that I wanted to try to do, and I wanted to create something. So that's what I technically am. Now, basically about this session is technically you have to kind of ask yourself really 3 questions. What is your passion? What motivates you? And what gets you creatively charged? And think about that. When you're creating your podcast, obviously you have that initial, like I said, initial bump to be able to just kind of get something out there, and if you're an expert in it. But you have to really think about these questions in its own right. If you're podcasting, you have a passion for it. You have a passion for your topic. You have a passion for what you're doing. So there's, like I said, there's things that that have to really keep you going. And one of the things is actually, I found a quote from David Lawrence. I don't know, who knows the guy Will Wheaton? Wesley Crusher from Star Trek Next Generation.
Space nerd!
Space nerd, exactly. He has, obviously, his own blog, willwheaton.net, that he's kind of been known for. And he started his own podcast, actually. And one of the first podcasts I listened to was actually from a quote that was given to him by David Lawrence. He actually does a radio show in California, and he also is one of the first podcasters. He kind of started doing that kind of thing in 1994, basically recording his shows and putting it online, but not in an RSS format. But one of the things he said was, if you're interested, you'll be interesting. And I talk a little bit more about that, the particular aspect of that quote, but that's one thing that if you're podcasting your passion, you're interested in that topic. And when you're interested in that topic, people are going to latch onto that. People are going to feed off of your energy, and they're going to want, and you're going to, and by doing something that you wouldn't think possible, you're actually encouraging them, your audience, to be able to create something on their own. So it has basically a wave effect, so to speak. So today I'm basically going to go over 4 tips to get yourself creatively charged. I'm going to talk about community, no fear, partnership, and me time. Okay, these are the things that I'll get more into specifically. All right, now I kind of have this whole kind of geek movie thing, so parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to, movie kind of feels, obviously, I'm dealing with The Godfather. And tip number 1, family, is basically having yourself a community. First thing is you have to find yourself a community. You have to find this particular community, basically it could be online or offline. Basically a community that has the same kind of passion that you do. Same kind of expertise. Like if you're into cars, you want to find a community that deals with cars, and they're just the people that are just talking about it, having conversations about it. Obviously, the session that's been talked about this morning from Chris Brogan, having like a social network of people that just are passionate about the topic that you're interested in. Also, like I said, share the same creativity you do. Definitely an idea. Go to conferences like this one. PodCamp is a great place to be able to go to if you want to have that. If you want to be passionate about podcasting, go to stuff like this. I mean, there's PodCamps all over North America, and I think even there's some of it throughout the world in Europe and stuff like that, and in Asia. I think there was one starting up there. But go to different conferences that are geared towards your passion. Like so, if there's like I do know here, if you're into cars or whatever, I keep using that example, but there's an auto show here in Toronto every year. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then go to those things, because that also can get you creatively charged. Now, use your community as a soundboard for comments, suggestions, and feedback. This is where you can join the conversation, so to speak. You can join in the community, ask for ideas. Like you say, okay, say for instance you want to start a podcast. I keep using the example cars. You want to start a podcast about cars. Talk to people in that community that you found. Talk to them. See what kind of feedback. What would they want to listen to when they're finding stuff about podcasts about cars. So definitely use that to your advantage. Now we have tip number 2, no fear, take risks. Don't be afraid to try something new. So say you got your podcast started up and you're into a format that basically you have the first half of your podcast it's about a half an hour long, 15 minutes about news or about yourself. Last 15 minutes about a particular topic that you're going to talk about on that week. Thing is, if you're doing that and you have that kind of routine, sometimes that routine becomes boring. Sometimes a routine can basically, you just don't want to do it anymore. Don't be afraid to try something else. Try changing up the format a bit. So see what kind of happens when you do something like that. It says don't fall into like I said, don't fall into routine. If something isn't fun, try something else. It's your podcast. You're in full control. Who cares? Like the audience is definitely important, but if you want, don't be afraid that you have to kind of cater to that audience in order to be able to podcast your passion, because it's your podcast. You can do whatever the heck you want. If you want to swear up the wazoo, you can do that. No one really cares. There's people that might care, but it's your thing. It's what you make of it. Also, don't run your podcast on committee. That's another thing. That just goes back to that point. If you're interested, you'll be interesting. Don't have your audience be the board of directors of your podcast, okay? Because if you have your audience kind of having to vote or kind of decide on what you want to podcast about, then it's not really your podcast anymore. It's kind of more community driven. Now, you may want to have that. That's perfectly up to you. But technically this is your thing. This is what you want. This is what you want to talk about. So don't have your audience kind of force you into doing something you don't necessarily want to do anymore. And that's the thing. If you're interested, you'll be interesting. I remember when Will Wheaton got that quote from David Lawrence. He was asking for feedback from his readers / listeners. He wanted to basically have it so that the audience could get involved and tell him what he should podcast about. And that's what David Lawrence said. No, you don't need to do that. If you're interested, people will listen no matter what you do. Because like I said, there's an audience for what you want to talk about. You just have to try to find that audience, and they'll stick with you if you keep it up. Their number 2. Lucky number 3, man. Mr. T. It's freaking awesome. Partnership. Find your creative equal. Usually a best friend you can trust and motivate, and vice versa. Now, this is where it kind of gets off the online community, kind of more into the offline, real world community, some people may call it, or RL, so to speak. You have to kind of find that person that has the same kind of creative passion as you do, okay? Usually, like I said, as an example, I have a friend, he actually was going to plan on being here today, but he had to go to a different youth event. But his name is Shane. He's been my best friend for about 10 years. And we have the same creative wavelengths. He loves writing, he loves podcasting, and we get together constantly. And we just, to be honest, we literally would talk about writing and podcasting. And in a way, you kind of help each other out. And so you need to kind of find that person that's in your life. So if whatever the first person that came to mind when I mentioned that, that's usually the person that you should be talking to. So that's another tip right there. Also, someone who is honest but encourages. Now, you need someone that definitely can, like, if basically you're podcasting something and you talk to your friend and he says, you know what, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. That was the worst episode of your podcast ever. You need that kind of person that can be honest with you, but also not only he has to be honest, you have to have a friend can really give you tips and say, okay, yeah, the episode wasn't so great. Here's what you can do to improve upon it. Here's my suggestions. Take it what you will. So that's where you kind of get away from the whole don't run your podcast in community. Technically, you can kind of go to your friend, and this is someone that you can kind of go to, and really, basically, he can be the one to kind of tell you, this is what you should focus on. This is the ideas that you can kind of come up with, and you can kind of both go back and forth, so to speak. You can give ideas, you can kind of expand upon ideas, that kind of thing. And also support and accountability. That is very key. You need someone that you can hold yourself accountable to. So, say for instance you're having trouble trying to get an episode out in a particular week. If you're a weekly podcast or whichever, you're having trouble trying to be able to get a podcast out there, or at least an episode out there. Have that friend have them be able to call you up or email you or basically nag you to death to try to be able to get you the podcast. You need someone that you can kind of fall back on, and he'll help. He'll hold you up. He'll basically help you. You can lean on him or her, and be able to bring you up and say, "Okay, you can do this. Pick yourself up." So I mean, because people have crappy weeks, whether you're sick or you just don't have the energy, or just to be lazy. It doesn't matter. That's why you can have that friend basically say, "You know what? You can do this. Let's get this going," and then you can and that also helps you along the lines. Lastly, of course, I have to start with episode 4. That's one. Me time. Now this is something that obviously we've gone from the online community to the offline, and now specifically towards you. Basically, this is how to charge your batteries, so to speak. Find time specifically for you. You have to do this. That is one thing that's key. Now, you cannot have your entire life like your work or school or whichever, or your family. Now, they are priorities, and I can completely understand that. However, what you need to do, you need to find a specific slot. If you need to schedule it in, do that. Find a spot, an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, whatever. Find a time that you can have specifically just for you to do what you want to do, whether it be podcasting or whatever. I would suggest kind of separate the podcasting from your me time, because that is also kind of a priority, but this is kind of a way to charge your batteries to podcast again. Another tip is basically listen to music, take a walk, meditate. That's ideas you can be able to do for your me time. If you're not sure what you want to do and you just want to sit around and just kind of listen to music, or like I said, meditate, take a walk, pray, whatever it is you want to do it. Find something that kind of that you can just kind of relax and just chill. If you want to take a nap, you can do that too. It just charges you mentally as well. Another thing is find things that you get mental energy from that inspires you. If you ever listen to like music as an example, and there's a song or a particular band that just like, you know what, it just kind of gets you going. Like I know for instance, a lot of people, or a lot of my friends, they're into working out, they're into exercise. So they would, one of the things that they always said is like one of the songs that will always get them charged up is "Eye of the Tiger" from Rocky. Because seriously, when you listen to it, it just makes you want to go out and just, run the streets of Philadelphia and just, pump some meat. I don't know. It's just like, there's always that, so you have to find music or find something that just, you get kind of that whole charge from it that just really wants to get you going and just kind of pumps you up, so to speak. And then lastly, take as much time as you need, but not too much that apathy sets in. If you need to take a break from podcasting from time to time, do that. If you feel that you're overwhelmed by podcasting, if you're trying to attempt to do a daily show, God bless you, because that's hard to be able to do. But if you need to kind of, if you're doing that kind of thing and you need to take a break, do that. However, don't take a lot of time, because that's where the apathy can set in. It's like, if you decide to take a week and you kind of extend that to a month or several months, that's when, at that point, that's where really apathy gets in. You just don't have that energy to really podcast again. So you kind of have to ride that fine line of taking breaks, so to speak. So now the last tip I have here, so basically bonus tip, do what's best for you. These tips I give you today, do with it what you will. Every person is different. Every situation is unique to you. So find something. You don't have to listen. You don't have to listen to me. You can think I say I'm full of crap. That's totally okay. Mike, shut up.
I love you, man.
I love you. No, like do whatever works for you. Not everything can work. Not everything I said today could work for you. It just your life may be completely different from that. But do whatever works for you. Find that time. Find a way to be able to get a community. Don't be afraid to start something new. And so, like I said, if you want to contact me, you can mail at stevesaylor.net or my website, stevesaylor.net. So, any questions? Any comments? Wow. Did I really say everything that I should?
You got some questions over there, Steve.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What do you think about roundtable podcasts? Like, just having a bunch of people involved in one podcast, and sometimes they interrupt each other. What do you think is a good method for, I don't know.
Actually, I love the idea of great roundtable podcasts. Actually, for my other podcasts I do, other than Black Shadows, This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman Dodd and Mike Here's the Punk Dirks and Ashley Eye Candy Pauly.
And occasionally this guy.
Yes. We do a lot of roundtable podcasts. We call them geek roundtables, and we take a topic and we just kind of, sit around at a bunch of microphones and just talk about it. Like the last one we did was about the Resident Evil franchise, and
we bitched about it, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. Well, true. Yeah, we did bitch about it. So the thing is, like, I love it. And as far as being able a technique to be able to do that, there's no real form or format that you should kind of really kind of regiment yourself into. If you need to do that and you're basically you want to moderate it, by all means, go for it. But basically, I see a roundtable as not necessarily as okay, this person has 5 minutes of time and that's all you can speak about. And this person has a amount of time and she can speak only about that period of time. Don't go that far, because roundtables I find is just sitting around with a whole bunch of your friends and just shooting the breeze about that particular topic. So I'm totally for roundtable podcasts.
Steve,
yeah,
just another thing
yes.
about the roundtables. Like, you'll have the urge to try to make them sound as professional as possible, but with roundtables, you really want to listen because they want to hear the genuine interaction, like what you genuinely have to say. So if you try too much to moderate them, it's going to come off like sounding fake or scripted. So the best thing to do is just talk. If you overlap, that's perfectly fine. Give it all the time. So
Yeah.
the best thing with roundtables is to make them sound as genuine as possible.
And the thing with roundtables, at least in our experience, in our first roundtable, I got buried in facts.
Yes.
If you know facts, awesome, but don't be a slave to them.
Yeah.
If you get something wrong, whatever. Just make sure the conversation flows. Because if it's you and your friends around a microphone, you're going to know when to naturally pause. But if your friend says, Superman sucks and you disagree, feel free to like overlap and say no. Basically, it's the content of the conversation that matters the most.
Exactly, and so and that's another thing with when we had that roundtable, when you had specifically facts. Don't be afraid to basically be wrong, because if you're wrong, and particularly in regards to facts, your community or your audience will let you know about it anyway. So it's no big deal. You can find it. You can always easily find it off the recording. So it's no big deal. Don't be afraid to basically be yourself in a roundtable podcast, because that's what really the roundtable podcast is supposed to be about. Now that's completely different than just on panels. Panels, that's where you have to have like that regimented time or whatever. So don't even think of it that way. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to say, I like what you said about committee, because I think sometimes you have to be selfish a little bit when you podcast to keep you going. You can't like always do everything your audience wants. Sometimes you have to just be selfish. Like you want to do something, you got to do it, because they keep you going, and then they'll appreciate that you keep going. We agree. You just have to do what you want to do, because it's the only way to keep going.
Exactly. Now you don't have to. If you want to change complete formats altogether, like say if you're a music podcast and you're going from punk music to classical, that's a completely different show altogether. But if you want to do that, that's completely up to you. It's just like whether your audience moves over to that. Remember, that's up to them. I mean, it's not like basically you're podcasting for you. You're podcasting for the fun of it. And if you have an audience that sticks around with you, well, that's just even better. That's just perks, benefits. My point. Yes.
What kind of tools do you use to like engage your community, or like figure out what people like, what people don't like?
Email is always definitely a key thing. Voicemail is also another thing. I think there's one I use is K7.net. Technically, it's a 206 number, so technically it's out of long distance out of Seattle. But what it will do is actually we'll be able to, you can record, I think it's up to the limit's 3 minutes. You can just call that number up, and you basically can leave a message, and it'll get sent to you as an MP3 or WAV format, and you can actually play that on your show. That's also another thing. And talk show is another thing too. If you want to basically get your community involved, have basically start up a talk show. That's basically a live interactive podcast where basically people can call in live on the air, and they can basically tell you if you're basically full of crap or you're doing a great job or just whatever. So, as far as other tools, yeah, I'd say email for me is my most important one. Because I'm pretty strict as far as being able to answer emails on as fast as possible. That's becoming a little bit of a chore now because with the whole book, I'm getting at least 10, 15 emails a day, but that's up to you. So that you also have to keep in mind too. If you're a community and you're emailing a podcaster, they want to respond. They just may not have the time available to do that.
I also find too stats is good. If your website podcast gives you stats, you can always see what has bigger downloads and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. That's another way to be able to gauge interest on your show. If you have more, like say for instance, for This Week in Geek, we've had tons of basically more downloads of a particular interview we did with ScrewAttack.com. Now they're basically game reviews, kind of more around just video game site. They have a show there. Several shows there actually. You might know more about it.
There's Side Scrollers, the Angry Video Game Nerd, and the Video Game Vaults.
Now, basically, that is the most downloaded episode we've had, and so now we kind of get the fact that okay, our audience is definitely interested in video games a lot more so than say our least downloaded interview was I think particularly actually podcasters.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Actually, Steve, one of the things you should maybe mention when we're talking about community, if you get involved in other communities, like I'm deeply involved with the ScrewAttack.com people, it'll help boost your community because it shows that you're willing to go and expand it. And it goes back to what Chris Brogan said about social networking. And another thing that we use on This Week in Geek is Facebook, which is a great thing. Plus, some of the people that you interview will also link you, so that'll help grow your community as well and pass on the recommendation to you, sort of thing. Yeah.
Anything else? No, that's it. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for coming. And if you want to email me or talk to me, by all means.